Hello everyone, and welcome to the Writer's Canvas, where we break down tips and tricks to help make your writing immersive and engaging. Today, we're tackling a big challenge for many writers: exposition. Exposition is the information your readers need to understand your world, your characters, and the plot. When handled well, exposition draws readers in, enriching the narrative and grounding them in your story's universe. But when mishandled, it can grind your story's momentum to a halt. It's tricky to strike the perfect balance, but the balance is what keeps readers engaged and coming back for more. Think of exposition as seasoning in a recipe. Too much and it overpowers the entire dish. Too little and it leaves your readers feeling like something's missing. The right amount not only enhances flavor, but also makes everything else shine. But how do you know when you've added too much or too little? Like most writing advice, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The right approach depends on your story, your style, and your voice. However, this is true for all stories. When done well, exposition weaves seamlessly into the narrative, enhancing depth and immersing your readers. Today, we'll explore techniques to help you master the art of exposition, as well as common pitfalls to avoid. Let's get started. The best stories don't lay all their cards on the table at once. Instead, they reveal information gradually, like scattering breadcrumbs for readers to follow. Think of your story as a mosaic. Each piece of exposition is a tile contributing to the bigger picture. By carefully placing each piece, you create a scene of intrigue and mystery that keeps readers eager to uncover what comes next. Let's say your story includes a cursed artifact. Instead of dumping its entire history in one go, drop hints about its significance over time. Maybe a character notices a faint crack in its surface, but doesn't think much of it. Yet, later on, another character reacts with fear upon seeing it, whispering, "I thought they destroyed them all." These moments build intrigue while keeping the focus on the story. Casual dialogue can also present seeds of curiosity. A line like, "No one who enters the cursed ruins ever comes back," hints at danger without overwhelming the reader with unnecessary details. When you scatter exposition like breadcrumbs, you trust your readers to connect the dots. This not only respects their intelligence, but also makes them active participants in uncovering your story's layers, keeping them hooked. Exposition doesn't have to pause the action. It can be a part of it. Instead of explaining the rules or history of your world outright, show how they shape the characters' decisions and behaviors. Imagine a sacred site that no one dares enter. Instead of telling the readers it's forbidden, show a character hesitating at its edge, their eyes darting to the symbols carved into the stone as they murmur a quiet prayer. That moment conveys reverence, fear, or danger without breaking the flow of the narrative. Daily routines can also reveal the nuance of your world. Do your characters light lanterns instead of flipping a switch? This single detail could suggest a scarcity of electricity or a completely different technological foundation. Conflict can do even more. Picture a warrior refusing to draw their sword during a council meeting. That hesitation might hint at a cultural taboo or a law forbidding violence in sacred places, adding layers to both the world and your character. Your environment is another powerful tool. Let's say a character brushes dust off an ancient mural, revealing an image of a forgotten war. Their reaction, whether awe, anger, or grief, adds emotional depth while grounding the exposition in the story's setting. By embedding exposition in action, you show rather than tell, keeping your readers fully immersed. Inner monologues are an excellent way to reveal context and emotion, but like any tool, they work best when used intentionally and sparingly. They're especially effective during emotionally charged moments or when a character's hidden motivations come to the surface. For instance, instead of writing, "She flinched at the crest etched on his armor, a symbol of the house that destroyed her family," try this instead. "Her gaze lingered on the crest etched into his armor, the room blurred, replaced by the memory of her father's yells and the house banner burning over the courtyard." This approach doesn't just tell the reader what the character is feeling, it shows it through a vivid memory tied directly to the moment. However, overusing internal monologues can bog down your narrative and disrupt its pacing. Think of them as windows into your character's inner world, offering a brief but meaningful glimpse. To make them truly effective, ensure they align with the character's actions and dialogue. This creates a seamless connection between thought and behavior, making the narrative feel cohesive and immersive. Details like scars, clothing, or architecture can do more than just paint a picture. They can add depth and meaning to your story. The key is to integrate these details into the narrative naturally, so they enhance the scene without feeling like a static description. Let's take architecture as an example. Instead of stating the building was old and crumbling, show it. Her footsteps echoed in the hollow halls as she ran her fingers along cracks etched by time. This approach doesn't just describe the building, it invites the reader to experience its history and wonder about its past alongside your character. The same applies to personal details. A scar, for instance, isn't just a mark, it's a story waiting to be told. Instead of writing, "She had a jagged scar on her forearm," you might say, "Her sleeve slipped as she reached for the goblet, revealing the jagged scar. She froze, fingers hovering mid-air before tugging the fabric back into place." This creates a moment of intrigue, prompting readers to ask questions and stay engaged. Visual cues can also reveal your story's history and culture. For example, a tattered flag, graffiti protesting a recent war, or a shattered statue are all details that offer layers of meaning without needing a lengthy explanation. By embedding these clues into the action, you enrich your story while maintaining its momentum. The key is to ensure these elements feel like a natural part of the world. When exposition is embedded in the fabric of your story, it becomes a tool for immersion rather than a disruption. Now we've covered techniques for delivering exposition effectively, let's talk about common pitfalls, those sneaky traps that can undermine even the best storytelling. Breaking the fourth wall. Imagine this line: "The amulet glowed faint," a clear indication of the dark magic lurking nearby. At first glance, it seems fine, but look closer. The phrase "a clear indication" assumes that the narrator, or the character, knows how the reader perceives dark magic. It's essentially telling the audience what to think rather than letting them decide by experiencing it through the story. These subtle nudges takes readers out of the narrative because it's the author explaining something, not the world or the characters showing it naturally. Info dumping through a single character. One character lore dumps happens when a single character becomes the sole source of all the exposition in your story. While it might seem like an effective way to convey information, it can lead to long-winded monologues or static scenes that drag the pacing and feel unnatural. Worse, it risks flattening your story by presenting a singular, unquestioned viewpoint. By embracing multiple voices, you invite readers to become active participants in the story. They piece together the truth, question the characters' motives, and engage with your world on a deeper level. This not only strengthens your storytelling, but also makes the experience far more rewarding for your audience. Static character descriptions, or the list approach as it is often called, happens when the story hits the brakes to present a detailed inventory of a character's appearance, often in a way that feels disconnected from the scene. While it's tempting to describe every detail of your character when they're introduced, what they're wearing, their eye color, the exact texture of their hair, this approach can halt the narrative's momentum and leave the readers disengaged. Dynamic character descriptions don't just tell the reader what someone looks like, they bring the character to life and add personality and depth to them. By anchoring descriptions in actions, emotions, or other characters' perspectives, you make them an integral part of the story rather than a separate interruption. This approach creates a stronger connection between readers and the character while keeping the narrative momentum intact. Exposition through forced dialogue. Forced dialogue is one of the most common pitfalls in storytelling when it comes to exposition. It happens when characters deliver unnatural lines that exist solely to provide information to the reader rather than reflecting how people actually speak. This often occurs when characters state things they already know, or when the dialogue is overly convenient, turning the conversation into an info dump disguised as a natural exchange. While it may seem like a quick way to convey important details, forced dialogue can feel clunky and artificial, pulling readers out of the story. Dialogue is one of the most powerful tools in storytelling. When used effectively, it can reveal backstory, deepen relationships, and advance the plot, all while keeping the readers engaged. By avoiding forced dialogue and embedding exposition in ways that feel natural, dynamic, and tied to the character's motivations, you ensure that every line serves the story. Remember, dialogue should sound like people talking, not authors explaining things. When your characters' voices reflect their personalities and emotions, readers will stay immersed in your world. Exposition is one of the trickiest parts of storytelling, but when done right, it can elevate your narrative to new heights. Think of your readers as explorers in your world. Give them just enough guidance to find their way, but let them uncover the mysteries at their own pace. The more they connect the dots themselves, the more rewarding the experience will be. That's a wrap on this episode of The Writer's Canvas. If you had fun or learned something new, don't forget to tap that like button, share it with your fellow wordsmiths, and hit subscribe to keep the inspiration rolling. Got a topic you're dying to see covered? Drop it in the comments below. I'm always good for a writing challenge. Until next time, keep creating, keep dreaming, and keep telling stories only you can tell. Happy writing!